Good evening.
Hello. Off the record. I forgot I was not on the record. Okay.
Okay. No, I just have a question for y'all out there. I'm still with Win 11. Anybody have you uploaded Windows 11? And if so, have you had problems?
No,
No, to you have not had problems. No, to you have not uploaded it.
no upgrade.
No, I didn't upgrade either.
I upgraded, but all I've worked in is Lightroom a little bit, and I haven't really had any problems yet.
I upgraded as well, and I haven't had any problems.
Okay.
I refuse to update for the first year. Too
Mark.
often by them.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said,
Yeah, your mouth is moving, but that's all. Nothing coming from it.
I'm doing that on I usually refuse to upgrade with them until we've got the first year under their belt, because I've spent most of my adult life beta software for them, frankly.
Yeah.
I spend too much time taking care of computers. I'm not bothering with an upgrade. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, you're the main one I need to know about, DA. So I'm not going to upgrade then.
So I know they've
Not
upgraded
yet.
some of the computers at work, but of course they're not using Photoshop or any of the stuff that we're using there.
Yeah.
But they have not had any issues with the upgrades with the normal stuff that we use. So, and we did one machine in particular and went through and tested it with everything that we use at work to test it before we started updating the other machines. And my IT guy at work has started to allow people to go ahead and do the updates now on the other machines.
Okay. I'll wait a little bit longer then.
Oh, hey, Brian, I don't know if she finished doing it. There was a Marcia Davenport that was going to see about getting on Reddit and join in. She was a customer of mine the other day, and I told her about the club, and she's interested in coming to the classes at the church.
Okay. Well, I haven't heard anything from her at this point.
Okay, because she uploaded the app and everything while she was standing there talking to me.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from her yet at this point, as far as any email or anything like that, or no phone call or anything like that.
Okay.
How many people do we have so far for classes?
At this point, I have no one committed. I have several people that have messaged me. I've had several people that have said they were interested, but I have no one committed saying that they're going. Carl, I don't know if you've got anybody from church that says that they're going.
Oh, it was in the newspaper today, and they fouled up the day of the week. So I will be in touch with them again tomorrow.
Okay.
Church is publishing it in Sunday's bulletin and again in the weekly newsletter. So we're getting fairly broad exposure from that end, and just have to deal with the wrong day. They used the newspaper, the Trib used Tuesday and not Wednesday.
Yeah, the Trib's good for that. I took out a $20 targeted ad for Facebook to present it out so that it shows up on people's Facebook feeds.
I saw it.
I saw it.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't been on Facebook yet.
I've shared it. But so yeah, as of right now, I don't have anybody absolutely committed to it. But I mean, we'll see. That's all I can say for that. Okay. Anything else?
No, but that tips and
I see you, Beth. I'm reading your message too.
Okay.
Beth, go ahead.
Yeah, did you want to start with the tips or start with Jim?
Beth
me.
needs to say something first.
The photo walk in Pittsburgh that we decided not to go because it was raining and sleeting and snowing and stuff. And DL and I actually ended up still going, and it was snowing and sleeting and kind of cold, and my fingers were white all the way down to here by the time I got back to my car. But I did get a couple cool shots in between being frozen. But for picking another date in the future, if you guys want to do it on April 9th, that's fine, but I can't go on the 9th because I forgot that I was committed to going to this hockey game down in Wheeling with the Boy Scouts. And we're leaving at like 11 because we're going to Cabela's first. I don't know what a bunch of Boy Scouts are going to do in Cabela's for like 5 hours, but that's the plan.
Oh,
Mm.
But the following weekend is Easter weekend. And then the weekend after that is the photo walk at Laurel Hill. So I don't know if we want to push this out to like early May, late April, or if you guys want to can this one for now or what.
Why don't
So
you, Beth, why don't you just push it out to sometime in May? Because it's going to be a Saturday walk.
yeah,
And in May, we have 2 Sundays where we have something going on. So
Okay.
those of us that can't go on Saturday will have Sunday stuff, and those that can't go on Sunday will have something on a Saturday.
okay.
What's the date for the walk in April?
The 23rd.
April 23rd is a Saturday.
Which is a Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. On the 10th of April, which is a Sunday, I'm going to Cary Furnace.
I bought my ticket. I will meet you there.
Okay, and I believe DL bought his ticket also.
I got it today.
Yeah, I just got it today too.
Did you get a discount,
I
Melissa?
wish I could.
I did. I was going to ask you about that. It was $27 after the entertainment tax instead of the 30.
Yeah, I was confused by that too, but and DL was confused by it too because he messaged me as well. So
Yeah,
the 10th we're going to Cary Furnace. A couple of us. If anybody else wants to come along, we'll be at Cary Furnace. It'll be another one of them like we did before, where you go and then wander around and take pictures.
They're doing one every month, it looks.
Yes, it does look like there's going to be one every month for the next until what, September, I think it is. So
Brian, people should probably be reminded that that's the photo safari you've signed up for, as
Yes.
opposed to the regular photo, or not photo tour, just tour, if you will.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the photo safari.
You
So
get
what's the
3
difference?
hours instead of
What's the difference?
The photo
3
safari
hours
is-
versus like 45 minutes.
The
Oh.
regular tour is a guided tour with, just as you go through the tour, you can take photos, but you're on the schedule of the tour operator.
Because that's what we did the last time we were there.
Well,
Yeah, we
did
were there for
photo
3
safari
hours.
last
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'll pick a date in May and run it by people, probably.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. Okay, anything else? All right, who's got the tips tonight, Margie, I'm sorry.
Rob does.
Oh, I thought I did. But if
No, I don't have them tonight.
No, Rob.
No, I have them on April.
This is a,
I have tonight, Margie.
I'm
So
sorry.
this is March.
Yeah,
This is March, Margie.
Yeah, okay. Wrong month. It is Jim.
That's
Thank you,
okay.
Jim.
I
All right,
forgive
Jim.
you.
Well, you can do news or tips, whichever one you want, just whatever direction you want to go.
Well, I'll even go before then with just a couple of other items.
Okay.
I know Marty wanted to remind everyone that the voting for the monthly photo contest begins tomorrow. and lasts for 3 days. Bob DeJesus and Carl Henry. Not mentioning any names.
Don't man.
It's 3 days.
Make it 7. Make it 7.
I keep trying.
And hey, Brian, a reminder for you, unless you've already set it up.
It's
that we need
already
a
done.
voting block.
It's already done.
Okay. And again, just as reminders for next month, for April, the monthly meeting, Brian's doing a presentation on drone photography, which is on the 11th. And the SWG meeting, I'm going to do a presentation on the photographer's ephemeris. And then someone, I guess Beth already mentioned, the photo walk is at Laurel Hill State Park on the 23rd, which is a Saturday. Okay, tips and tricks. This is going to be a short one. Earlier this month, I was watching a YouTube video. For some reason, I watch a whole lot of photographers who are from either England, Scotland, or Wales, it seems. It's, for whatever reason, there's a bunch of them out there. And there's a woman, Kim Grant from Scotland, who she typically has a video once a week. And she is, at least supposedly, a professional photographer. And what interested me was that she was going out on a photo shoot in the early morning at the beach, and she wanted to still out, flatten out, if you will, the ocean water, make it smooth. And so she was putting on her neutral density filter, and she thought she had an 8-stop filter. And she, for those of you who use photo pills at all, she started using photo pills to calculate how long her exposure would be with what she thought was an 8-stop filter. And she got confused. And it's funny watching somebody on YouTube like that. I mean, she ended up being bewildered on what was going on with her settings. And she knew that the setting that photo pills gave her was too long for the situation, just on her experience. So she cut back on it, but eventually ended up with a couple of overexposed photos because of the settings that she used for her exposure time itself. So that got me thinking about just using neutral density filters. And by the time the video was done, she still didn't figure out what the problem was. And people did respond after the fact, and some of them identified this, and I think this is what happened to her. So that's background. Those of you who, do most of you use neutral density filters, just in general?
Occasionally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize this before. I use a case filter, K-A-S-E. And their neutral density filters are designated with an ND number. And as a, for instance, a 3-stop filter is called ND8. And in this case, a 8-stop filter actually is an ND256. So the numbers on the filter ring do not refer to the stops of light attenuation. So if you're not familiar with that, you could be confused thinking you had an ND8 filter, or I'm sorry, an 8-stop filter when in fact you really didn't have.
Do you think that, Jim, do you think that's universal or just your
Well,
brand?
so it's not universal because I actually did a search. So those companies like Case who use the ND designation that has a number that is not the stops are Case, K&F, and Newer, or at least 3 that I identified. The other, probably the majority, the others use something else. It's called an optical density number. And these numbers aren't equivalent to stops either. So here's a for instance. A 3-stop filter using the optical density number, it would be called an ND 0.9. using the filter factor number like my filters do, it would be an ND8. And they're just, so the numbers are completely different. So I'm going to pull up a table that kind of shows this to you. The other companies that use that ND small numbers, the optical density number, are Hoya, B&W, Nisi, Tiffin, Sarui, and Lee. So at least the ones that I found, most of them are using that ND number. But in both cases, they don't really refer to the stop. So you need, if you're going to use something like photo pills, you do need to know what the stop number is, as opposed to the simple number designation of your neutral density filter. So let me share here for a second. Okay, can you see a guide to neutral density filters?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here. In this whole article, and I'll end up putting up in the chat the links for all my news items as well. But this is a nice summary article about just the general use of neutral density filters if you haven't really played with them previously. But here's the table. So the first column are stops of light reduction. And then again, some of the companies use this optical density number. There's another identification. I didn't see any companies online that had filters for sale, but there's this ND1 number, if you will. And it looks like it's just like it's 10 followed by the stop number. So like this first one stop is ND101, the 3 stop is ND103, etc. And then these are the filter factor numbers, and this happens to be the type of filters that I'm using. And then this is just a designation of the amount of light that's reduced based on the stop and the filter that's being used. So I thought that was interesting. If you have questions on why the numbers are what they are, it doesn't really identify it in this particular article. I was too lazy to investigate it, so I don't know why different units of measurement or different numbers are being used to identify the different types of filters. So the only way, I guess it's just be cautious as far as what you think you might be using isn't really what you're using.
Jim, on the app store, you could get apps that will calculate the seconds of time with a specific filter, irregardless of the settings and all that, irregardless of the different numbers and all that. So one app is called the LE Calculator, and it's free. And what you do is you just kind of put in what neutral density filter you have, the shutter speed that you took it, for the base photograph, and then it calculates how many seconds or the time factor, the exposure time. So there are apps on the web that you could, on the App Store, that you could download to help you kind of go through all this mumbo jumbo and all that to calculate how much exposure time.
Well, Bob, thanks. In fact, that Photo Pills app that I mentioned is one that does that. You're right. Yeah.
Right.
But the question is, Bob, what number do I put in for my neutral density filter?
Well, the thing is that you, if you go to the,
if I'm using that app, how do I know what my stops are?
They have different, a whole range of, you just look at the ring, the density filter, and it says here on this app, ND 3.3, it goes all the way up to ND 10. So, and even higher. No, ND 7.2 and so forth. So again, you look at the ring and just put in the ND stop.
Well, Bob, I'm sorry, but that's what I was explaining. Your filters might have that ND number, but my filters don't. They have that filter factor number. And someone else's might have the ND number that are in the hundreds.
Yeah, the problem is, Bob, is that there's no universal number on ND filters.
Right, right.
So if you're like, I have ND filters here for my drone in front of me, and they're an ND4, an ND8, and an ND32. So if I go by this, ND32 is a 5-stop filter.
Right.
But if that app doesn't use those numbers and it uses the other numbers, then I need to know that a 32 is an ND 1.5. And I think that's what Jim's getting at, is that it depends on a filter as to what number it is. There's no universal number on filters at this point. And I think that is, I have noticed this, Jim, with several different ND filters that I have. Some of them have the 1.2 and a 1.5, and some of them have the ND 16 and 32. And it's confusing. It is. You have to know what those are to know how many stops of light you're actually reducing.
What I've done with mine, Brian, is I've written down on the filter holder, if you will, what the stops are for that particular filter.
Yeah.
Because that's
This
the
may
stops for the
sound
one common
simplistic,
language,
but
if you will.
this may sound simplistic, but can't you just look at them mathematically? I mean, if you look at the optical density numbers, if you divide them by 0.3, you get the number of stops, right? 1.8, ND 1.8 divided by 0.3 is 6. 2.
Well, yeah.
And then the other ones, the ND numbers, the 101 is 1 stop, 102 is 2 stop, 107 is 7 stops. That's pretty easy.
Yep.
And then the filter factors, they're reciprocals. It's the ND4 is 1/4 of the light, 1/8 is 1/8 of the light, and they're all functions of 2, right? 8 is 2 cubed. So that's
Well,
3
actually,
stops.
it's 2 to the, it's not a set, it's like, for instance, it's 2 to the stop number gives you the ND number. It's a
Right.
power of 2 progression.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So
But
if you look at 1/32, you know that's 2 to the 5th. That's 5 stops.
Okay,
Well, mathematically, you're right, Rob, but the problem is when you're out in the field with your neutral density filters, you don't want to necessarily do math in your head. And
Okay.
remember which form that was that you're supposed to use with your filter.
Just print out this little chart and take it with you.
I was thinking this chart would be a nice little chart to print out and laminate and put it in your bag.
That's probably a good idea. So I thought that was interesting. I'm gonna when I add the chat here, the links, it'll also include that video that I originally saw. At least I think it's in here. Yeah. If you want to look at that, it's kind of amusing to watch somebody so flustered while they were trying to do it.
That's me half the times.
Oh shoot, why didn't they go in there?
I have a laminator if anybody wants to. I could print that little chart out and laminate it and hand it out for everybody.
That would be nice.
I'm looking for my chat. I can't find it. I minimized it.
Maybe you shouldn't have upgraded.
I did not upgrade. Okay, I think I had this problem. Oh, wait, here we go. Okay, I pasted all my links in there. What's funny in my computer, I can't do, oh, actually, now that I'm saying this out loud, I remember doing this the first time. For whatever reason, my Control V shortcut key doesn't work putting something into the chat box. I've got to right click in it and then do a paste from my right click. I don't know why. But anyway, all the links are there now.
I don't see them.
No, they're not.
They're not?
Mm,
Oh,
Not
crap.
They're
yet.
not.
Did you hit enter after you did that?
That's just put something in.
Maybe I didn't.
There you go.
Okay, they're there now.
Now they're there.
Enter. Now I gotta remember to enter. Okay, it's all so easy. Okay, so that was it for the tips and tricks, unless anybody has follow-up question or comment or whatever. All right. So we'll go through these one by one here. I'm probably beginning to sound like a broken record as far as the mirrorless cameras. Canon seems like they're going in 100% into mirrorless cameras moving forward. At least they're, we'll call them, they're semi-pro and professional level cameras.
Yeah, I think they said they were going to do that about 2 years ago.
Well, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
They're coming out with a whole slew of new the RF lens, which is for their full frame mirrorless cameras over the next
Yeah, that's
few
all they're
years.
making anymore. They're not making the EFs anymore.
I think we mentioned that the other month. Yeah, that's right, DL.
Yes.
So they're all in on mirrorless at this point. Okay, I just thought I'd mention that. So this one, is that any of you using a Google Pixel phone, smartphone?
I'm not, but a friend of mine just got 6.
Okay. At least as of right now, Google's making this feature available on their Pixel phones where, and since I don't have one, I can't tell you how you do it, if you will, but it provides a blur, not just for people type portraits, but other subjects as well on your photo. So in this case, in the title, animals, food, whatever the obvious subject is of your photo, it will pick that out and blur everything else around it, if you will. And you can do it, it's not done while you snap the photo, it's done afterwards in post-processing. And apparently, if you have one of these phones and you have old photos, you can apply that blur to an old photo as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And what does Apple do as far as the ability to blur subjects now? Can anybody comment on that?
You have portrait mode in an Apple phone, which blurs backgrounds and makes the subject more in focus.
Does it work just on people, Brian, or other subjects?
I've used it on my RC cars, so I would say it works on other subjects.
Okay.
I have that on my phone too. It should be on your phone, Jim.
I maybe, well, I know what the portrait is. Does it work? I've never really played with it, Andy. Does it work on other subjects as well?
Sure, you can, just use that particular setting on the phone and you can blur the background.
Okay, so if it was like a close-up of a flower, it would know that, oh, the flower is the subject.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And speaking of iPhones in this case, I don't have an iPhone, Pat does. And maybe this is just common knowledge for all of you who are using iPhones, but if your phone starts getting full of photos and you've been uploading them to iCloud as a quote backup copy,
Come on.
if you decide to delete that photo from your phone, the next time the iCloud wants to do a backup, it sees, oh, Pat Murphy deleted this photo from her phone. I'm going to delete it from iCloud as well. So the moral of the story is you can't really use iCloud for a storage backup device for your iPhone photos.
Are you sure you don't have control of that?
You do, and you can. But you have to tell it not to mirror your phone.
Yeah.
So you can use it to upload stuff to the iCloud, and it'll stay on iCloud, and you can delete it from your phone and then keep it on iCloud. Or you can tell it to mirror, which is the way I use it, because it uploads every picture I take, and then I delete them off my phone when I don't want them, because I'm taking 100 pictures of used cars every day. So, but yeah, you can do it either way with iCloud.
Well, Brian, I'm not sure if there's a couple example screens here as I read it. So here's one of them, which talks about, well, do you want to use iCloud or not? And then the second one is this, what you had mentioned, where you can keep low resolution photos on your phone and have full resolution on iCloud. But the article does not show or mention any other options.
Yeah, it's a setting in, I believe you have to change the setting in iCloud on a computer, not on the phone, to make it not do that.
All right. Well, for Pat's sake, I'll have to check that out. I normally take her photos and download them. Well, yeah, download them and then upload them onto Amazon Drive. Because I just didn't trust the iCloud.
Why don't you just back them up to a external drive?
I certainly could, but I don't. I send them up to the cloud.
Actually, if you read the bottom line on your how to actually back up photos with iCloud, it flat out says the easiest is a small portable hard drive.
Yep.
To upload it to the iCloud and then double effort use a small portable hard drive.
Okay. Any other comments or advice? All right, moving on. Okay, let's see. I know Brian and Annie and I have had this discussion before about the quality of using the print quality of a photo taken using your iPhone or whatever other smartphone you have, the newer versions, if you will, in a good camera, if you will. In this video, it's too long to show the whole video. It's almost 18 minutes long, but this is another photographer that I follow on YouTube, and he's got it's 102 megapixel Fuji medium format camera, the GFX 100S. And he also happens to have an iPhone 13. So he kind of was thinking the same thing. I wonder how they compare. And if you watch the video, and again, you've got a link in the chat if you want to do that on your own time, he shows you the number of different photos, the comparison on the computer monitor. And you can peer in, and I think all of us could probably tell the difference of which photo came from which camera, if you will. But then he took it a step further and printed a couple of different photos, large size. I'm not sure exactly what size. I think he mentions it in the video, but you'll see, I'm going to play just a snippet of it. He prints both of them out. And his basic comment is, if you stick your nose up to the print, yes, you can tell the difference. If you put the prints and hang them on a wall and step back 6 feet, he doesn't think you can tell the difference, which would be the kind of a normal viewing distance, if you will, if you did want to hang one in a show or whatever. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to start at 3. So this first little snippet is just like a minute or so, and he's discussing the two camera systems as well.
This could actually get to this. And just for a real quick frame of reference, this is the GFX 100S. It's a $6,000 body. It was paired with the 32-64. This is the lens I use mostly on my trip, and this is a $2,300 lens. So adding this together, you're looking at probably like an $8,500, $8,600 setup compared to an iPhone, which I believe these start out at $1,100. So there's a pretty big gap there. And the iPhone 13 Pro Max is a 12 megapixel, very, very tiny sensor. And it's got 3 lenses, a telephoto, wide, and ultra wide. I usually use the wide, which is kind of the standard, and it's an f1.5. And I was told that the standard lens is kind of the equivalent of 23 millimeters. I'm not 100% certain if that's true or not, but that's just kind of a quick rundown of the two. But what I was so interested
I'm going to fast forward here.
all handled by one of the most experienced firms in the world when it comes to helping professional photographers. So joining PPA with their community of over 33,000 photographers can be a real lifesaver when it comes to their indemnification trust. So be sure to check out the link in the description below for additional information and $25 off your PPA membership today. So I got both of the prints. This one right here, this is the print with the GFX 100S, which as expected, it came out pretty good. I could definitely, with a little bit of additional print testing, probably dial this in a little bit more, but for the initial test, I think it did come out pretty good. I'm going to switch the camera over here to a larger table so we can kind of compare both of these. So these are both of the images here. I'll give you just a minute. Let me kind of zoom out just a little bit here. Maybe I'll overlay a little bit of additional B-roll just so you could take a look at both of these just to determine which one you think is which. As you zoom in, this is kind of where you can really start to see the difference. If you kind of look at the rock here, or these areas that we compared earlier, you can start to see a little bit of a difference between the pebbles in one image versus the pebble area in the other, or maybe that tree location right here where those branches were versus over here as well. And if this doesn't come through well enough, I'll definitely overlay some additional B-roll to make it a little bit easier to see. And of course, if we come up here to the top of the mountain area, you can see the differences between the two. Now, I haven't mentioned which one is which, but I have to believe that more than likely you probably have already been able to tell. But this image right here, let me get that clear away. This one right here, this is the image from the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Yeah, iPhone 13 Pro. It's always a handful of these names. And then this right here is the Fuji GFX 100S, which this is definitely a better print, but I was very surprised as to how well the iPhone printed as well. And like I said, when you look at these normally, like normal people would look at them, when you're not like zooming in crazy, you know, when you're not looking at it like this. You know, normal people do not look at it prints like this, staring at them like this. You know, you normally kind of hold it back, or you look at it on a wall, you stand, you know, maybe 5, maybe 10 feet away from the print. And when you, obviously I can't show this on the video, but I kind of leaned these up against a wall just a minute ago in between clips, just to see how well they look compared to one another, and stood, I don't know, maybe like 7 feet away. You really can't tell that big of a difference, but it's, it was definitely an interesting comparison. I'm trying to think whether or not I'm kind of surprised. I guess I am a little bit surprised. I'm not surprised how big of a difference they looked on the screen, but I am a little bit surprised as to how well the iPhone shot printed. Now, if I printed this and I didn't have the other photo of the GFX 100S, if I didn't have this to compare it to sitting right next to one another, I think I'd probably be even more impressed than I already am with the quality of how well a large print with the phone came out. But nevertheless, it was a very interesting comparison to go through to compare both of these types of, or I should say types, comparing both of these completely different camera systems. Of course, the iPhone, somewhere here, iPhone 13 Pro versus the Fuji GFX 100S, two completely different systems, 85.
So now early on in this video, he mentions that there's nothing scientific about this comparison. It's just him and a couple of his photos and him printing them out in his home printer and observing the differences. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And in this case, it is, it's a, was it 100 and some, 102 megapixel medium format camera. I mean, he's got a really good camera there that he's comparing it to. And by the way, that's for those of you, that was Zion National Park where that photo was from. So it makes you think. Okay. We'll move on. So these are some photos we can go through quickly. Well, coincidentally, this is Mobile Photography Awards. And something tells me probably a majority of them are iPhones, but I really don't know that. I didn't look at them that carefully to determine. I was just looking at them for the photography itself. So go through here. I just like a lot of the compositions and the colors. They're pretty nice. That must be a unique motel room somewhere.
Old phone.
Oh yeah, the phone's got the red light on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hotel.
Here's the blinds. It's a nice effect.
And like neat window.
It's a nice reflection photo.
Especially with the koi.
Mm-hmm. Goldfishies.
One thing most of these photos have in common is they're very simple, if you will. There's nothing complex about them.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Jim, did they mention the software program that they use?
Well, I doubt it, but I don't know, Bob.
Okay.
I mean, there's a good chance. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Just leave it at that. Nice use of shadows.
Hmm.
That would be cool without the, I'm going to call it a pigeon. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it really adds to it. I'm not quite sure what I think about that one. That might be Dennis Shate's photo there. I'm not sure.
Whose?
Well, it's either it's Dennis or, well, let's see. I don't know. Anybody, any of our other members that like black and white you can think of that do waterfalls?
Most of y'all do black and white photoshops. I mean, photo.
I was thinking of Beth.
No, I was thinking of Brian. Yeah.
That's a cool shot. I like that.
Well, you know, and it is cool. And the bottom shadow kind of going from light into shadow. I said the bottom silhouette, I should say. The bottom silhouette going from light into shadow is kind of cool.
Yeah, I like the timing though between the person on the steps and the person down below.
Yeah.
They line up almost exact.
Mhm.
Oh, that's pretty.
That's nice.
I like
Very
that.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Soft colors, only one person out there.
That's somebody swimming or bathing or whatever, you know, waiting. That is really pretty nice.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Hmm.
Mm.
That's interesting. I didn't see this one before.
Yeah, the style nowadays, put your bathtub in front of a window.
People.
That's neat. Mm.
Mm.
All right, I'm going to stop that. And this is courtesy of Beth. It's a video. Wait, someone put an awful lot of effort into doing this. You got to give them credit. Beth, before I play it, do you have any comments on this you want to make? Beth, you're muted if you're talking. Okay, she might have stepped away.
I say Beth may have stepped away. She has another meeting she has to attend as well tonight.
Okay, so this is courtesy of Beth. Light painting and combination of light painting and stop motion animation. It's kind of cool looking. It's about 1.5 minutes or so.
That is really neat.
That's nice.
That's neat.
Now, what I understand is Marty's going to try this on Saturday.
Okay.
Right, Marty?
Yeah, Marty's laughing.
Add this to your station. Well, thanks to Beth for that one. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that one.
Very
That was
nice.
neat. That was neat.
So can you imagine the work it took to do that?
Oh my gosh, the talent.
Really unbelievable. This one's courtesy of Carl Henry. And it's too long to play the entire video. Carl, assuming you're on there, do you want to kind of introduce this for us? And I'm going to play like the first 2 minutes or so that kind of introduces the subject.
Yeah, somebody else took a break?
Carl, you there? Okay.
Yeah, he's there. We just can't hear him.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm going to play the first 1.5 minutes.
Oh, you're muted.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
Okay, we'll get started.
And welcome back to the CineStill studio. You know, we've covered the basics of developing color negative and black and white film on this channel, which is what most of y'all who have started processing your film at home may already have experience with. I've developed hundreds of rolls of film at home myself, and one of the most amazing and most incredibly satisfying moments of the whole process is pulling the negatives off the developing reel and seeing your work for the first time since shooting it. And if you think that's cool, you have got to try processing slide film. That moment, pulling your film off the developing reel, it's like 10 times better. If you've ever been intimidated by the idea of processing slide film at home on your own, don't worry. CineStill has simplified things down to just 3 chemical steps, allowing you to process beautiful color slides in just a few minutes with our CS6 Creative Slide 3-bath process. Today, I'll be demonstrating this using our new CS6 Dynamic Chrome 1000 milliliter kit. Colton? Which includes all the chemistry you need for the 3-bath CS6 process in one box. Okay, here's what you'll need. A developing tank, 3 1-liter pitchers, 3 1-liter chemical storage bottles, our new CS6 Dynamic Chrome kit, obviously, the TCS 1000 temperature control system, an accurate thermometer, a 16-quart plastic tub for a water bath. Am I done? And lastly, and most importantly, a roll of slide film that you've shot. Any roll of film that says processed with E6, like Ektachrome and Velvia, is compatible with this kit and will give you beautiful slides as a result. Okay, let's hit the lab and mix some chemistry.
Let's stop it there. Okay. So, Carl, are you there yet?
He's not. He's in the process of coming back in.
Oh. I'll give him a second to get back in.
He seems to be having technical difficulties.
All right, we'll move on then. So this is a notice I got from Flickr not too long ago. And of course, I know the club isn't using Flickr officially anymore. I've heard Rex, I know he uses it. I think I've seen postings from Beth. I still use it. And there's a pro version that you pay a monthly fee for, and you get, I think it's kind of unlimited storage if you want. And then there's a freebie version, which is what I do, and you're limited to like 1,000 photos or so. But what they came out with is a slight change in the 2 plans, and it has to do more with content than pricing, if you will. And I thought this was interesting enough to bring up to the group. You know, ever since I've been in the club, particularly when we have our shows, and someone asks, well, what type of photos can we put up in the show? And Brian's response is anything but nudes. And social media in general, obviously today, is very sensitive about content and whether it's offensive or not. And what Flickr is doing with their pro subscription is basically allowing, and I don't know what their definition of risque is, but they're allowing risque content for the pro subscriptions. And they go on in this article to kind of explain why they think it's important that artists have the ability to share their work and comment on our work, regardless of what some people may find offensive, if you will. So I thought that was kind of interesting, because that seems to be like the reverse of what most social media apps are going to. And then the second change, and this is kind of a minor item, at least I think it's minor, but for those of you who either before or still do post on Flickr, one of the settings is you can have your photos available for the general public to view, or you can limit them to a kind of a private subset of maybe your friends, if you will. And I don't know if this is simply to try to get people to jump up to the pro version or not, but they're eliminating the private storage of your photos, if you will, on the site. up to, well, they're allowing you up to 50 private photos that aren't available to the general public. Beyond that 50, all of the photos you post would be available to the general public to view. So just if those of you who are using Flickr, just be aware of that. And got one last one here. Although I have posted Instagram in the past, I don't really use it very much. Apparently they're bringing back their chronological feed, and I don't use Facebook a whole lot, but I know people who do use Facebook. Some get upset because of the non-chronological feed that you get. Well, Instagram apparently has got enough complaints that and I assume it's a setting. You can either turn it on or turn it off, but the chronological feed is supposed to be available again. And that's the end of my story tonight.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Bum.
So Bob, I think you are up.
Okay. But the first challenge is to see if this screen can be shared, because it had some technical difficulties last time. But I thought part of the discussion, or the whole discussion, would be on the tone curve, both in Lightroom and in Photoshop. And the format will be 2 short videos showing the respective tone curve in Lightroom and in Photoshop. And then the last thing is I have just a couple of images to show you what I do with the tone curve. So let's see if this works. Okay. Let's Safari. Let's. I'm trying to get to Safari, so let me just click on this here. Let me just. Okay. Do you see the screen?
Work transformation?
Yes. Excellent. Yes. Excellent. Excellent. So we're halfway there. So let's watch the first video on the tone curve in Lightroom. Okay. Let me just see if I have. Oh, wait a second here. Yes. Okay. This is, again, a very short 7-minute video, but it kind of explains a tone curve and how to use it in Lightroom. And the next video would be how to use it in Photoshop. So we go.
Develop a deep level of control over the look of your images and define your own style so that you're not needing to rely on other people's presets. Then this video is for you. Most photographers avoid curves or don't have a fundamental understanding of how it works, but the tonal curve is the single most powerful editing tool you can add to your arsenal. So let's quickly look at how to think about.
Can you turn it up?
Give you more
Excuse me?
over your images.
Turn it up.
And I'll share how I personally
Can you
use
hear
to
it?
color my images and mix up unique looks for each shoot.
Yeah.
When you look at your basic
Expand it to full screen, Bob.
Yeah, can you
Oh,
maximize
it's
that?
on full screen. Okay.
You have other terms for what seems like the same thing, as well as your
That's
point.
better.
This can quickly get confusing, so let's talk about how programs like Photoshop and Lightroom are thinking of these things. So here's a photo from a real wedding I shot that was also an editorial featured in Destination Weddings magazine. This is closer to the original with some subtle brightness and contrast adjustments. And when I'm talking about tones, it's easier to explain from a grayscale image, so we'll convert this to black and white. This helps to look at our image in terms of darkest areas to brightest areas. And if we simplify, this is how Lightroom and Photoshop thinks of these tonal ranges. Bringing up curves to illustrate, you have your blacks, and these are the darkest parts of your image with the farthest point on the curve representing a pure black. You have your shadows, which are dark but have a wider range in tones than the blacks. Then you have your midtones, also called exposure. This is basically your 50% gray of your image. You have your highlights, which a lot of people actually confuse with the whites of an image, but the highlights include a broader range on the total curve and often also include Caucasian skin tones. And then finally, you have your whites, which have a narrower range. And these are the brightest tones of your image, often found in reflections or areas at the very tippy top of the brightness spectrum. So with that in mind, how does this apply to our image? Let's open up curves. Looking at our default curve, we're going to have 2 points already placed representing our darkest blacks and our purest whites. If we wanted to lift the blacks, we could drag the black point up And at the same time, if we wanted to crush the whites, we could bring the white point down. You're essentially telling the program that what was once white, we now want to be a gray. And what was once a pure black, we want to be a dark gray. So if we were to reset this, we could also do the same thing with our midtones, lifting up from a medium gray and essentially increasing exposure. Now, the true power of curves is that unlike a simple exposure adjustment, you can lock small areas that you want to keep the same. For instance, you can add a point here to lock the midtones so that they don't change, and then add points to raise just the highlight areas and deepen just the shadows. This is a common contrast enhancement referred to as an S-curve, which you can see if I turn this effect on and off. Now, where some people get in trouble with curves is adding too many points or too many points together, which will impact other parts of your curve, making your image go a little bit wonky. So to avoid that, keep it to just a few points so that you have a nice, smooth curve. So now that we've touched on that, let's head back over to Lightroom to edit our original image and also chat about how to color tone using RGB curves. In Lightroom, looking at our histogram, you can see we have the same thing: our blacks, our shadows, our exposure, which is the midtones, the highlights, and the whites. And as you can see on our histogram, the majority of the tones in this image are living right within this highlights area, with the same thing mapped out here on our curves: our blacks, shadows, mids, whites. So if we reset this by going to linear, we now have a clean curve, and let's see how we can dial this in. Now, typically I'll have already done a basic adjustment across the image to kind of even it out and have it looking good. Here's the quick before of the image. And as you can see, I underexposed to retain the detail in the clouds and the highlights of that trailer. And then what I'll do is bring up the image to kind of even it out, have it looking good as kind of a baseline. I have a full other video all on how I edit for this look that I'll link below in case you guys are interested. But for the fine tuning and the real look of this image, that will all happen in tonal curves. And that's what we'll dive into now. So the most popular way of using curves is what's called an S-curve, where you're lifting the highlights and bringing down the shadows with the midpoint pretty much staying in place. But since I love a light and airy look to my images and almost a filmic look, I do things a little bit different. And my favorite way of using curves tends to be lifting in those midtones, keeping the shadows just a little bit there, and then lifting in the blacks, which creates a little bit more of a filmic look in those shadow tones of the image. For this, I'm going to bring that down just a little. There we go. And I think that's looking pretty good. So from here, I'll usually come into the color channels, and we have red, green, and blue for our RGB channels. Now, when thinking about how to use curves for color toning, it's helpful to think in terms of how an image works. Every image is made up of 3 channels of color: red, green, and blue, that add together to create every single color in your image. But to truly understand how to control your colors in curves, it's important to visualize the color wheel and know the opposites of each color. For instance, bringing down the red channel will shift part of your image to be more cyan, green to magenta, and blue to yellow. So now that we've covered the basics of colors and curves, let's go back and see how I apply this to this image. I love more of a filmic look. So for this image, we're going to come into the greens, click your points. We're going to hold these in place. And kind of a cool hack when you're picking your points on the curves is to hold down Option, and this will keep it from moving, since I found that Lightroom is really sensitive. And also when you're dragging up or down by holding Option, it will give you more precise controls. And then we're going to lift just in those blacks. What this is doing is, I'm going to go to the extreme just so you guys can see, but it's adding color into those blacks of the image, those deepest tones of the image. And this creates a really pretty lifted black look where we have a bit of a green tone in the blacks. I'm then going to come into my blue channel and do the same thing. And for this, I actually want to warm her up just a little bit. So I'm going to add a couple control points here. And then I'm going to bring the tones down just a little bit to add a little bit of warmth to her skin. We're pulling it towards the yellow tones. And then we're going to go up in our shadows, just a hair. Subtlety is really good for this. So it's just getting the blacks of the image. And there we go. Here's a quick before and after. So as you can see, this is a super powerful tool, and with just basic knowledge of how color works, you can start to develop your own style and really fine tune any look you want. Have fun.
So that's how to use a tone curve, which is basically how to add contrast to your image to make it, as the expression goes, pop a little bit more. So now we're going to do it in Photoshop, and there's a unique feature in Photoshop where you can put a mask over it and just limit how much you want to highlight the tone curve or make the shadows and so forth. So let's go to this one. This is very short, it's only about 5 minutes.
Due to the amazing power of curves in Photoshop. Hello and welcome to Flern. My name is Aaron Nace. You can find me on flern.com, where we make learning fun. And in today's episode, we're going to introduce one of the fundamental tools for editing your photos in Photoshop. It's called curves. And for those of you who are just beginning in Photoshop, you're going to see this is one of those tools that will make a huge difference in any one of your images. Curves can be used to lighten or darken any part of your image, and they can be used as well. Let's get into Photoshop and show you a simple example of how you can change an image dramatically with just a couple curves layers. Here's our image for today. You can download this on flern.com. Just follow the link right down below. To start off, we're going to go up here to Layer, down to New Adjustment Layer, and over to Curves. Let's hit OK there. And our Curves dialog basically has the information of our image. This is called a histogram, with your dark information being on the left and your light information being on the right. Now, if you take this center point and simply click and drag up, you're going to lighten your whole image. If you drag this down, you're going to darken your entire image. Now, the great thing about these curves adjustment layers is they always come with a layer mask. So let's say I want to brighten, this area where my subject is inside of this like doorway. I just want to brighten that up. So let's go ahead and just drag that a little bit brighter. There we go. But now, if I turn this layer off and on, you can see it affects my entire image, which I don't necessarily want. So I'm going to click on my layer mask, and we're just going to fill this with black, which is going to make this curves adjustment layer invisible. We'll go to Edit, down to Fill, and I'm just going to choose black. So let's hit OK there, and you're going to see now this layer is no longer visible. So at this point, I can paint white on my layer mask just where I want it to be visible, and it's going to brighten up those areas. So let's go ahead and choose our brush tool. Now we're going to choose white as our foreground color. And I just want to choose like a large soft edge brush here. And I'm going to paint white on my layer mask. So what I'm able to do basically is just paint in the areas that I'd like to be a little bit lighter. And everywhere I paint is just going to get a little bit lighter. Now, this is a wonderful part of curves, but it doesn't really stop there. For instance, if I double click right here, I can actually make those areas even brighter, or I could decide to make them darker as well. So you can choose which areas you'd like to affect and then always change their light levels after the fact. Let's go ahead and turn that layer off and on so you can see the difference. Here's our before and the after. So adjusting your lights and darks is one of the basic principles of using curves. You can also use curves to adjust your colors. Let's start by creating another curves adjustment layer. We'll go to Layer, down to New Adjustment Layer, and over to Curves. We'll hit OK. And this time in our little drop-down window here, we're going to click, and you can see we have the option to change our reds, greens, and blues. And for instance, let's go to our red channel. If I click here in the middle and drag that up, you're going to see it's going to add more red into my image. And if I go down, it's going to add the opposite color, which is cyan. So red and cyan are both available in the red channel. Green channel is going to be green and magenta. There we are. And our blue channel is going to be blues and yellows. So let's say we want to make this image just a little bit warmer. I'm going to go to my blue channel and click and drag down just a tiny bit, and you can see it's going to add yellow. Now, if you go too far down, it's not going to look realistic, but we're just going to go down just a little bit. It's going to add some yellows. And then we're going to go to our red channel, and I'm going to drag this up a little bit, which is going to add some red. And red and yellow intersect to make orange. So let's go ahead and turn that off and on. And you can see we've warmed our image up in a really nice way. Again, you can always lower the opacity or paint on your layer mask to control your visibility. And there you have it. Let's go ahead and take a look at our before and after. Here's our before and the after. So you can see curves are incredibly powerful and easy to use. And if you're ever not sure where to start with your photo editing, curves are a great place. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, give us a big thumbs
up. Excuse me. Can you still see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So what I thought is to just give two examples of the tone curve in Lightroom and in Photoshop. So here's a picture. It's a JPEG file, and we could use a contrast to kind of add tonality to the photo, but it's a global effect. Excuse me? Oh, it's a global effect so that it affects all parts of the image. So what you could do is
Bob, excuse me. I don't think we're seeing the photo that you're looking at.
Oh, okay. Let's resume share.
We're still on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Let me new share. Okay.
There you go, Bob.
Okay, you got it? Okay.
Yes.
And by the way, I posted the links to Bob's 2 videos in chat for you guys.
Yeah. I think I need a tutorial on how to use the share module in Zoom. Okay, so that'll be a global lesson and all. So the thing is that if you go to the tone curves, again, I eliminated the global adjustment contrast, affected the highlights because there's a little bit of clipping over here on the upper left-hand side. And what you could do with the tone curve is, first of all, you could press this little button here that gives you sliders that you yourself can adjust the tone curve. And as the videos mentioned, you could up your highlights a little bit. Again, this is all subjective and all that. It's up to you, the content developer. And you get some, and here's the S curve that they were mentioning. And again, you could do the sliders. And let me just reset all. And then you could just go and do it yourself. And you could put a point curve here, point curve here, point curve here, and just do your own kind of more or less adjustment in the tone curve trying to get that S curve. And you can see the difference between that and that. And again, as the video is highlighted, you don't want to make too much of a change because it's just a little bit too drastic. And then what you could do is even further is to do some toning in colorization. For example, this one here, if you want to have some rocks to make it a little bit more brown appealing. But again, a little bit is better compared to doing a lot. So that's the initial one. And then this is the one with a little bit of red tinge on the photo. So what you could also do, there's a little bit of a marker over here that you could just bring and just localize the areas that you want to affect. So this one corresponds to what you can see on the graph. You could go up, or you could go down. So in other words, you could just use this to kind of more or less guide you as to what you would like to do at what part of the curve. And that's kind of wonky, as you could see, and all that. So we're going to reset all the channels here. So add a little bit of a red curve here. It's a little bit, let me just do it this way here. And you can see the before and after. It's kind of, it gives you more dynamic to the photo. On this one here, same principles. You could go to, let me just reset that curve. Yeah, it's reset. You could go to the contrast here, and that gives you global adjustments. And you could do that, that's fine. But then the tone curve, you could just, again, make your points, try to get that S curve, and just up a little wonky here. And you can see before and after, there's a little bit of a more tonality, a little bit more contrast in specific areas. So that's how you use a tone curve in Lightroom. So we're going to switch to Photoshop. And do you see the screen?
Not Photoshop.
Not in Photoshop. Okay. A new share. Okay, I see. I'm getting the hang of this. Okay, so you have to, okay, there it is. How about now? Do you see it
Yes.
now? Okay.
Yes.
Well, again, the same principles apply. You add a layer, just, oops, no. You just add an adjustment layer by using curves down here in the drop down menu. And again, 3 points, highlights, midtones, and darks. And again, you could just adjust the tonality on this photograph. And here is before and after. It's not striking. And again, a lot is better than, a little bit is better than a lot, because then it just gets a little bit, you know, out of this realm. And then again, just as the, we could do the same thing with this other photograph. And let's see this one here. This one, the same one. We add a new adjustment layer, curves, make our 3 points, and just, again, bring up the highlights, maybe bring down the shadows and darks, and then just a little bit of subtle change. Now, the thing with this one here is that you could add another curves layer if you would like, okay, or any other, and just, let's say you want the green, and you just want to more or less limit the green into some areas of the photograph. So then what you could do is use the brush tool and just, let me see if I have this correct in the, yeah, in the white. Now I gotta do the white. Oops, no. Let me just, no. I didn't have the full range here. So you could, again, change the composition. Again, this is kind of, you know, crude and all that, but with a layer mask, you could bring out the changes that you made beforehand. So it's a way of using the tone curve both in Lightroom and in Photoshop to add tonality or to add contrast to your image. So it's a brief discussion. Any questions?
That's great.
Bob, I'm curious, is there, it looked from that the Lightroom and the Photoshop features of the tone curve are pretty much identical. Are there different, can you do more with Photoshop that I just didn't pick up on, or?
Right, no, the thing with Photoshop is that you could add this layer mask. And let me just see if I could do this one here. Let me just get another curves layer here. And let me just darken this area a little bit more, okay? And let's say I didn't want all this to be dark. Well, then I could just go to this layer mask here and, oops. And you see this area here, you can make it darker without affecting the image and all that. So the fact that you could do a layer mask on Photoshop, which you cannot do as far as I could tell in Lightroom, you could just add specific parts to the photograph, the tonality curve or the contrast. So you can see, you could do some changes. And this is before, this is the first tone curve. And then this is just where I kind of darken these darkened streaks and all that.
Okay, so the tone curve is not available within a mask in Lightroom.
Correct. You cannot mask in Lightroom, as far as I know. I mean, I don't know if anybody else knows, but I have not been able to do that. It's only in Photoshop that you could mask the curve or any other feature. For example, yeah, the masking technique.
Remember, Brian gave a good talk on doing masking in Lightroom a couple months ago. So you can do it.
Oh, you can do it. Okay, I stand corrected.
It's a new feature that just came out with the last major
with the-
update to
oh,
Lightroom.
okay.
So
Okay.
prior to that, you were correct. You could not do it.
Okay, I stand corrected. Right, with the new Lightroom features, you can, but you know, but Photoshop is a little bit easier because you have to subtract and so forth, I guess.
It's a little more, precise.
Right. So, do you have this, Jim? You use Capture One, right?
Yes.
Do you have this feature in Capture One?
Yeah.
Okay. So is the technique basically the same?
From what I can tell, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, that's it, folks.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh.
Now we're going to get Bob learned how to stop sharing.
Yeah, how do I get out of this mess here? What do I do? New share or no?
How about that?
There we go.
That's great. That's great.
I got you taken care of, Bob.
Thank you so much. You know, like I said, we need a lesson on this, okay? I mean, to anyone that doesn't know how to do this, it's a little intimidating because you know, you don't want to waste people's time and all that. But
okay, maybe I'll try to put a screen
yeah.
I'll do a screen recording of how to do some of that stuff.
Okay, that'll be great. That'll be great.
All right. Well, Margie.
Absolutely not.
I don't care. Do it anyhow. You know what I'm asking.
I don't know, but I do want to make a comment right now.
Go ahead.
That one video by Fern, if y'all have time sometime in the afternoon, I tell you, I really like Fern. He's got quite a few videos out there on Photoshop, and I would recommend looking into it.
And I did put the links up to both of those videos in the chat, guys. Margie, did you want to do a little critiquing since we got some time?
You know,
oh, sure, why not?
Before you start that, Brian, I have a little technical issue that I'd like to share and get some advice on.
Sure.
I record 100 images with my Canon camera on a memory card. I put the memory card in a reader, and I tell Lightroom to rename them and move them to the hard disk on my computer. Historically, that process is straightforward and has worked fine. With I got a Canon R5, a mirrorless, and it's not importing the images in the order in which they were acquired. If I look on the memory card, the images are number 1 through 100, like they should be. And when I tell Lightroom to move them and rename them, the first image might be image 33, the second image might be 2, then it might be 45, 89, 55. And they transferred all the images except the order, the file name order is not the same as the caption name order. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why it's doing that.
Dennis, what was the name of the camera?
It's a Canon R5 mirrorless.
Just ran into that subject a couple of days ago. Let me do some research on that.
If I look at files imported from my Mark IV, the previous camera, they're fine. They've started, the first image is 1, the last image is 100. But with this, and it's 45 million pixels. And whether that's just, I don't know. And I posted a request to Adobe, and idiots just tell me that if I sort them chronologically, they're correct, but the file names are not in sequence. And what am I worried about it? Except it's wrong, and it's not done that before.
Dennis, I ran into something similar to that with my Fuji once upon a time. But unfortunately, I don't remember the particulars, but I think I was able to correct the problem rather than importing with the card in the camera. I removed the card and used a card reader, and that seemed to take care of the problem.
Yeah, well, that's what I do though. And I had suggestions that said, well, it's a file system issue and it's just giving you the images as fast as it can rather than in order. And if that were the case, it would do that all the time. It didn't used to do that. This is a new phenomenon, and it's consistent. I can copy the files onto the hard disk before I import them, and it does exactly the same thing. And I'm sure I could circumvent it. I could not rename them and do that at a later time, but it's just not right. It just irritates the crap out of me. So I'm looking for a computer wizard to shed some light on that. Or even a good guess would help.
Well, the only thing I can think of is that in Lightroom, when you do your import with the renaming of them, you can tell it to sort them a certain way, and there may be something that's clicked differently there.
Yeah, I wondered. I thought about that as well, and I don't see where the you can display them in capture order or file name order. But when you import them, there's no option to override the numeric sequence of the file names.
Okay.
I mean, it really acts like an old Unix machine where you say, give me the files, and it gives you the files, and it's up to you to figure out what order they should be in. And well, and it's consistent. It does it every time.
Okay.
So if you think of something, let me know.
All right. Okay, Morgan.
Okay, I cannot find February's photo contest. Is it still up or did you take it down?
I don't know. I deleted some stuff today.
Okay, so you probably deleted what we were going to critique today. So we are just, and Rex is not here, so I hated to critique his.
Well, critique is.
Okay.
Bad review.
All right, let me go ahead and bring up Zoom and share screen. Y'all see it?
Yes.
Okay, let me just minus this out. All right. This is one of Rex's. We start with something nice, how you might change it, if there is a way that you want to change it, and end up with something nice. Okay.
I like the focus of the bird.
Yeah, the background competes a lot with the bird.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that rock.
I'm sure he took the bird and put it into that background.
I was going to say, it looks like he put the bird in there. It doesn't look like his talons are, curved around that rock.
Yeah. It looks copy and pasted.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah. Excuse me. The one thing I have found on a lot of compositives is when you go to take one subject and put it in with another photo, you've got to have at least 3 or 4 pixels when you do that. That lines the outside. Otherwise, it looks like a paper doll. And I've seen so many people just do,
Yeah.
go ahead and just do a, I'm totally blanked right now. They just go ahead and they just transfer it over without adding the pixels to
Yeah.
it.
And
So,
there's shadow in the head and there's no shadow in the leg.
right, right.
Mhm.
And we need to remember the shadows. We need to add the extra pixels so it looks more natural on the sides.
Yeah. There should be shadows. There's no shadows in there.
Right. If he
I
had
don't-
done that, added the shadows and etc. to it, then I think it would have turned out great, because I do like the background that he has added. It just really brings out the bird itself.
Yeah, but the way the rock looks against the legs is just looks fake. It just looks fake.
Once again, he didn't add any extra pixels when he went ahead and did his selection tools.
Mm-hmm.
He probably kept it at 0. And up on the top where your selection tools are, it will show you how many, it will show you you can add more pixels. And you should always add at least 3 or 4 more pixels to your item that you are going to move to another picture. Okay. Let's see here.
When you say add pixel, you're talking about adding pixel like around the outline? You could
Yes.
have your pixel
Yes.
all around the outline so it doesn't look so stark. That's the idea?
That's the idea.
Okay.
Correct. Right now, it looks like a paper doll posted on a background.
I guess
Because it's too sharp.
Yeah, my first comment when I saw the picture was I like the background, I like the bird, I don't like them together. And that's
Okay.
Yeah.
RG.
Yes.
RG, if you refresh that your page, I put that February thing back in.
Oh, okay, great. All right. All right. Yeah, well, you put it back in, but I'm not bringing it up.
Hit refresh again. It should bring it up. I checked it. It works.
Okay.
Well, you're still on that same picture though.
All right, you're right. Let me go back. All right. I'm going to refresh this.
Delete your critique or cross off your critique one.
Yeah.
Okay. Now go down and pick your February thing.
Oh my gosh.
Refresh your page.
Oh man. Meeting will be over with by the time I get to it. I think I did it. All right.
There you go.
Okay, we're going to just start with the first one and work our way down. How's that? Okay. Go for it, people. Anybody? Come on.
Oh, dark.
I like the reflections in the water, and I like the tones. The only thing that I noticed, but it may not be a flaw, but it seems like it's the bridge is like running downhill slightly. I may have adjusted for that, but
Do bridges up here run downhill? I mean, I don't know, so I'm asking.
Only on the other side of the mountain.
well, I mean, it kind of sometimes I'll adjust something even if it's accurate, but if it, makes me, draws my attention, sometimes I'll just adjust it anyway.
Suzanne, on this one, I don't think that would work because if you look at the
Because of the
buildings in the
building.
background, they're straight. If you straighten the bridge, they're all going to be crooked.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I
what
was,
feel. That was the problem I was having, because I thought the bridge needed to be straightened too, but then I saw the buildings would be crooked.
yeah.
Yep.
I was taught, one of the first things I was taught when I came up here was you look at the houses, and even though when I look at a house up here, they're all going downhill like like one bulb can roll to the other side of the house. And I was taught you look at the roofs, and if they're straight, then everything else will be straight in the picture. So
Yeah.
that's what I do now. I like it. The subject, I would like to see it a little bit lighter. I'm not good with black and white. This is more Dennis and Brian's area.
This is where that masking would have helped in this, where I could have lightened the bridge a little bit, that area. It was getting dark out. This was at the end of the day and it was pretty dark out. So,
yeah, we lost light.
Yeah, we did.
What, your flash wasn't good enough?
Considering that we're standing on a bridge on the other side of pretty much on the other side of the river, no.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have reached.
I thought that Brian would like that one.
Yep.
I would have had to been in the water.
Anything else, y'all?
I personally, after looking at this, I think I would have cropped the top down a little bit more.
What, over here?
Yeah.
No, up on the top.
Oh, the top.
Yeah, across there.
Yeah. After I looked at, because I like the reflection more than I like the buildings.
Yeah, this is
So I would,
nice.
that doesn't do anything for me. So I would have cropped it so the reflection would be more prominent.
Well, I can see these lights are on, but it would have been nice to be able to put something more to the lights. What am I trying to think of? I'm really tired tonight, y'all. But make the lights stand out a little bit more to add some more character to the picture. Give them a star shape or something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That would have
Little
added
flares, yeah, like a light flare.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let me go back one more. Okay, I'm gonna get somebody besides Marty. Let's go with Jim. Okay. I have to always bring it up to full so I can see what it looks like.
I think it's a really good capture of the swan with the wings out like that.
A lot of captured a lot of good details in that, and it's nice and sharp.
I like it more long ways instead of up and down.
I like it when you clicked on it to make it bigger.
Yeah.
I like that.
I liked it that way.
That's a better picture.
That is.
I like that one.
The bottom half of that is, the other way is cool, but the bottom half of that is being out of focus just distracts the hell out of me.
It go with the tree branch that's there.
Yeah.
It also separates the two birds.
Yeah.
What's that, Carl?
It also separates the two birds.
Yeah.
which I found kind of
It makes a big difference, I think,
Yeah,
when
I
you
think
really
there's
go
too
in.
much top and too
Yeah.
much bottom. I
Yeah.
would use
Uh-huh.
the branch and make it like a landscape picture instead of a portrait.
Mhm.
I agree with the cropping suggestion. I would do a square crop.
Yeah, I mean, just
That
it's,
is pretty much square there.
yeah, I'm more about getting rid of that bottom, Jim, because it's out of focus,
It's a
and I kept
mess.
staring at it.
That's a good point. I agree.
I think darkening that tree limb would help as well.
Yeah, it would make the swan
birds
stand
stand
out
out.
more.
Yeah.
Just one comment. I don't know if I put it in the comments on this photo or not. This is a rare bird for our area. It's a trumpeter swan. There were actually some birders out the same day that I was there photographing, and they were
Some
so
what?
excited.
Somewhat? Oh, birders. Okay.
Birders, yes.
All right.
And they
Now,
were
if
there.
you could have had this head up while he was doing that, that would have
I've
been
got several wing positions.
Yeah.
There's about a half a dozen of that particular movement of the swan. We've got the wings forward, up, backwards. It was pretty cool. Then it was nice sun. It was low, it was near sunset, so the lighting was really nice.
Where'd you take it?
It was at Mammoth Park.
You said that's a trumpeter swan, and they're rare for this area?
Yep.
What kind of swans do we usually have in this area?
So we have mute swans. In fact, there's a mute swan there now. Mute swans have been there off and on over the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
This pair of trumpeter swans were there for, Pat and I took a walk the one day. I didn't have my camera with me. So I went back the next day, and within 3 days or so, they were gone. So I don't know how long they were there, but it was probably less than a week. So
Where did the trumpeter swans usually, where are they usually at?
I couldn't tell you.
I never realized that there was a difference. I thought that was the swan that was usually there.
No, if you look at the beak, if you zoom in on the beak, is all black.
Yeah.
Usually orange.
The mute have a little orange dabble there.
Oh, okay. Huh. Well, I learned something new about the swan.
Okay. And that was Jim's. Okay, here's one.
Bob, I like the whole concept of the composition. With the steel columns and the trees among each other, it's a nice composition.
I like the textures in it too, with the stone, and then I like the contrast with the snow on the right.
Is this, I mean, is that a gun?
No, it's a pipe.
All right. So what are all these? Is there a story behind what this is?
bent steel.
Well, I
They were in
know.
a fire. That's what happens to steel in a fire, in a very hot fire.
What was it originally?
It's like some kind of manufacturing place.
Bob, are you going to tell us?
I'm sorry, I'm muted. This is the Westmoreland glass factory, the remnant of it. What I liked about this photograph is that you have steel, man-made, and nature seems to be conquering over the steel and all. But it has a lot of color because the bricks are all red and kind kind of blended in with the photograph.
Yeah.
I like the tan color of the photograph.
It's sharp. In this area.
The only thing is I don't like the red brick that's showing up on the top right-hand side. I would have cropped that out.
This? Oh, red hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
top right-hand side.
That right there.
No.
All the way up to the
Go
top.
back out.
Right here.
Go back out.
Back out.
Margie, the top
On
right
the very
corner.
corner.
Top right corner, right
The
there.
right edge.
All right.
There you go.
I agree. That needs to be cropped out or clowned out or something. Crop out would have been easier. I don't think you would have missed anything, but just cropping it out.
No.
Anything else? I do that every time, don't I? Oh, the little baby kitty. I love the subject. I love the subject.
Kitty.
Yeah.
I think
Is
she
she-
overdid the vignette.
Does she/he have the yellow tint to her? Him?
Not on my screen.
I have a yellow tint on mine.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, I have a yellow tint.
Yeah.
Is that the color of the cat or is she supposed to be white?
Don't know. The person that took it's not here.
All right. My eyes are getting a little bit blurry here, so I can't tell if this is out of focus or not. It didn't look like it when I brought it up.
No.
But
No, it's in focus. Looks like she has a little bit of a texture on there of some sort.
well, that would have been a little bit of over sharpening a little bit.
Possibly.
That looks like an iPhone photo to me.
Yeah.
And Candy does occasionally do photos with her phone, so I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised.
Okay, Rex isn't here. Suzanne, we can do, oh, let's do this one. I don't think we've done that one yet. Oh. I love old cars like that.
I like the amusement. I looked at that and I just, it made me smile. No kill car shelter and then all the old cars.
Yep.
Just made me smile. I really liked it.
I like the angle of the highway patrol. It kind of points right to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Suzanne, where'd you take this?
West Newton.
Get out of
I
here.
believe that was West Newton.
Is this like an active garage or is it just a dump site?
No, I think it's an active garage, but those that highway patrol car has been there for years, and it does at one time. Well, it may still have a mannequin inside of it too. I took a photo of it before for Halloween.
I can't tell if that's the mannequin or not.
Well, it was in the front seat. It kind of doesn't look like it's there anymore, but no, I think, you know, it's an active garage as far as I can tell. And so when I was taking the photo, I was kind of crouched down on the street a little bit. It's like a very
I have to
small
say,
area, you
I
know.
I don't think you could have posed that better if you even
Oh.
tried. Like the angle of the building, like how, because it's a flat corner, it's not a corner. Like, and the way that that is right in the center, and the way that that highway patrol car is parked with the wheel pointing right at that that sign in the wind, like you couldn't have posed that picture.
Yeah, because see, even this is just
Yeah,
highlighting.
yeah. You couldn't have posed that picture if you had tried. Like that, I think that is just beautiful the way it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Melissa. I did turn that tire in myself.
You did.
Hey, that's what it takes. That's what it takes to add to the photo. Yes.
Did you try it? Suzanne, did you try this in black and white to see how it was? Did you try a variation of this?
Actually, I didn't.
I like it with the matted color.
I do too.
I do too.
I
Yeah,
think
because,
black
I mean-
and white would take away from the subtleness of the matte to it.
The only thing that I'm not really jumping up and down on is the vignetting around.
And see, I like it. I think it gives
Do you?
an old feel to it, like an
Yeah.
abandoned old feel to it.
I think it's, and this is my opinion only because everybody has their own opinion. I would, you know, if you had it, it needed to be more shallow, I guess you can say, not as in your face.
Yeah, it's a real dramatic vignette.
Yeah,
I
it
mean, I
is.
can do it without one too.
I like it with it. It reminds me of like an old postcard.
Yeah.
What about the rest of y'all? Opinion?
I like the vignette. Doesn't bother me at all.
I'm not a fan of the vignette, but I would love to go here and do a nighttime light painting project.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's what I see there. That's a nighttime light painting project just waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if that guy would let you do it though. I think he does have in the other window there, it says something about I can't remember, like if you're this close, you could be shot or something like that. So you may want to check with him first before you do nighttime light painting.
I let Brian go first and then after.
Yeah, like if
And Brian's always armed anyway, so you know.
when I go by there again, maybe I'll see if somebody's out. I'll talk to them and
That would be great.
Yeah,
That
that
would
would
really
be
be
cool.
good.
Is that on the main drag in West Newton?
Oh gee.
Or is it off on the one side street?
You know, I can't really remember, you know, I just drive around down there and it seems like I just run into it. I can't really explain where it's at. I'll get directions for it though.
I was just wondering because I'm familiar with West Newton, so I was just wondering.
Yeah, I'll find out exactly where it's at.
Yeah, I'm
and
wondering if
let
it's
you
like on
guys
Water
know.
Street.
What's that?
I said, I'm wondering if it's down on Water Street. I know there's like a junkyard down there and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, was whether or not it was down off of Water Street down there.
Well, you got me on that one. Don't know.
It's down by the river. Like it runs
Yeah.
with the water.
Did he say anything to you when you were taking this and moving his wheels around?
No, I was really stealthy about it.
Oh, were you?
Suzanne, use your charm next time, okay?
Yeah, I don't think that would work.
It'll work.
Yeah. No, I try to take them, you know, when nobody's out, because I really don't know, but I mean, I could talk to them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Take it, and if they object, then talk to them. But this would be nice, like Brian said, a night shot. Okay, well, we're over 9, so this will be the last of it. So I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. All right, guys. Well, just a quick overview of April drone photography at the regular meeting. The SWG meeting will be photographers ephemeris. I don't know how to say it.
I think is the pronunciation, but I don't know.
Okay. We do have a scheduled walk for a Saturday, April 23rd for Laurel Hill State Park. And don't forget the photo exhibit at Westmoreland Museum is going on in April. So
that's late.
Saturday. And Saturday's the station.
And this Saturday, yes, this Saturday, it's not on my original list. Sorry. This Saturday is the station photography over at Marty's Place. So those of you that are available to go check it out, go check it out. That'll be pretty cool.
Jim, just a question before we leave for the art museum. Are there any criteria for the frames of the photographs?
Yes, and it's that information is in the initial notice, Bob, but for those of you who have photos accepted, I'll be sending out that same information a second time. You'll get that sometime early next week. There's no the frames, you can use whatever frame you want.
Okay.
The matting is where they want it to be neutral colored, if you will, light, white, grays, muted mattes.
Okay. So the frame's okay. I mean, the color of the frame is okay.
Any frame is
okay. Good. Thank you.
Jim, when we gave them the dimensions though, earlier, that included the frame size, right? So aren't we kind of locked into what we told them? Because they said they needed it for their arrangement or their placement.
In a general sense, Suzanne, but if your estimate, if the frame you decided to use is slightly different than what you put in, it's really not an issue.
Not gonna, okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, guys. Well, if there's nothing else or no other questions or comments, we can call it an evening.
All righty.
Okay.
Night.
Bye.
Night.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good night, guys. Thank you all.
Night.